This month on 219 West. Sounds of the city, loud and inescapable. Is it more than just a nuisance?
Loud sounds can damage their hearing. Sounds that are either loud or not loud, but intrusive and bothersome, can create stress. And stress in the long run can cause physiological damage.
New Yorkers search for silence. There's nothing wrong with your television, folks. That's the sound of silence at Eat, a restaurant in Greenpoint. And then there's the search for soothing sound.
Sound healing is a way to use sound, not just music, but also sound waves, to induce different states of consciousness where healing can take place.
Welcome to 219 West. I'm Jonathan Maffei.
And I'm Divya Verma. Also on the program, an Egyptian journalist exiled in New York. If he hadn't fled his home in Cairo, he would be in prison. But first, the ongoing battle against New York noise. The last decade has seen a boom in construction and the noise that comes with it, along with efforts to dial down the noise level. John Sodaro caught up with one of the loudest voices against noise pollution.
These days, in an effort to mute out the noise, people usually slide on their headphones or pop in their earbuds. And if you complain, you might be told, get used to it. One New Yorker doesn't buy into that line at all.
It's New York City. What do you expect? Well, let me tell you something about New York City. New Yorkers deal with the din. That's why maybe they're walking faster than they should, and that's why sometimes they don't stop when you ask for directions, because they want to get out of there. They are dealing with it. Dealing with it is still stressful. So you don't get used to something, you adapt, but that's always at a cost.
The cost for adapting could be your health, and not necessarily just your hearing.
Loud sounds can damage their hearing. Sounds that are either loud or not loud, but intrusive and bothersome, can create stress. And stress in the long run can cause physiological damage.
Arlene Bronzaf has been making noise, or should I say the reduction of it, her main priority for decades. As an environmental psychologist, she has advised mayors and city officials on the health hazards of noise. Since then, all of her research has taken a backseat to the noise issues, and she's been the lead voice in dialing down the noise of New York. Bronzaf has conducted studies and testified numerous times in front of the city council. The result of her persistence with revamping the way the city handles noise would help spark the city council to revise their outdated noise code.
When the city council considered revising the noise code, and just in part, I testified before the city council, said we have to revamp the entire thing. We have to look at it again. It's, 1970s is when we passed it. It's already 2000. And I pushed very hard for that.
New York City has seen a boom in the construction since the Bloomberg era. And the mainstay of the new noise code addresses the high decibel raucous. The new noise code mandated that all construction sites have a noise plan in place and sets guidelines for specific hours construction can take place. It also sets standards for noise levels for handling containers in the streets, as well as ways to lessen the noise from equipment like jackhammers, which now have to have a noise-reducing muffler attached to them.
Is it the best code that we could have? No. Is it better than the older one? Yes. Are there sections of it that are better than others, namely the construction section? And the shortcoming is, do we have enough inspectors to monitor? So when the code came out, I said the code will only be effective if it can be enforced. Otherwise, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
3 decades ago, Bronze Ave was instrumental in helping Mayor Koch attempt to muffle the honking around the 5 boroughs.
Several other people. This is in the 80s, and this is putting up one of the first don't honk signs. We need these reminders, and they should have stayed up.
The new noise fight is to help people living around the 3 major New York City airports ran by the Port Authority. A new bill will authorize a study into the noise pollution around the 3 major hubs.
The people that are living with aircraft noise in this city cannot enjoy their backyards, cannot enjoy conversations without intrusions. Diminished quality of life means that you're not living a good lifestyle. And in the long run, that could lead to physical disorders.
For now, the bill is awaiting both signatures of Governors Cuomo and Christie to authorize the study. For 219 West, I'm John Sidaro.
How often have you been in a restaurant and thought, I can't hear myself think? Angela Johnson visited a Brooklyn restaurant that is experimenting with the sound of silence.
Silence in a restaurant. The idea may seem a little odd, but for the managing staff of the Eat restaurant in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, this was a well-thought-out decision.
The idea came from my long-time interest in the relationship between food and people and consciousness, and the way that experience is shaped by all of those things, especially in contexts of eating.
For the past 7 weeks, on Sunday nights, patrons have been able to experience a meal without the clutter of conversation. Diners are not allowed to talk and must eat supper in silence. And what has started as a simple idea soon became a big event thanks to social media and word of mouth.
Eat has, from the beginning, been all about trying to reorient the possibilities of human consciousness and experience through food. And we also do it through pottery, through the creation of the space, the creation of events.
Though the restaurant is used to hosting special events like this one, Newman admits that asking diners to consume without conversation was a risky decision. But the owner of the restaurant was up for the experiment.
I thought it was a good idea. I said, whatever, let's try it out. I didn't think much of it, to tell you the truth. I didn't have any thought about it. I thought it was, why not?
And it's paid off. The restaurant seats about 20 people and serves meals with local and seasonal food. On the silent Sunday nights, the restaurant is filled with customers who have booked their reservations well in advance.
I was reading articles about restaurants that are different and kind of unique in the city. And I found that this one was about silence, like it was a silent meal.
Yeah, actually saying like the restaurants here are very noisy all the time and you can really listen to someone very well and cannot have a very good conversation. And I feel sometimes it's like overwhelming, so I actually thought it was a great idea.
New York City is often described as hectic, loud, chaotic, and crazy. But every Sunday night, at a small restaurant in silence is golden. For 219 West, I'm Angela Johnson.
Silence is one antidote to noise, but what about using sound itself to offset the damage done by noise? Natalia Osipova introduces us to several New Yorkers who are using some unorthodox methods.
Jackie Greco is taking a gong bath. It's a sound healing session.
On my way here, I felt a little bit apprehensive because I didn't know what to expect, but once everything started, I just felt very clear-headed and very calm. My main intention was to release anxiety, mostly just relaxation.
An escape from the hectic pace of life in New York City. For others, staying calm is a more serious matter. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, about 1 in 5 adults in the United States suffers from anxiety disorders, the most common mental illnesses provoked by overreaction to stress. Recent research shows that meditation helps alleviate some of the anxiety symptoms. Getting into a meditative state can be challenging and time-consuming. For impatient New Yorkers, there is a possible new process. What is called brainwave entrainment industry offers alternatives to traditional meditation and anxiety pills. Entrainment means getting in sync with a frequency corresponding to the intended brain state, like relaxation or imagery.
Sound healing is a way to use sound, not just music, but also sound waves, to induce different states of consciousness where healing can take place. Everything is in a state of vibration, and when something is not vibrating at its proper frequency, it's said to be in a state of dis-ease or disease. So what sound healing does is it helps entrain our organs and our bones and our cells to get back into its healthy state of vibration.
Emily Horowitz is a clinical psychologist at a Veterans Affairs hospital in Manhattan, but also a sound healer. She uses sacred instruments like gong and singing bowls, both at a stress reduction group at the VA and in her private practice.
Usually when I do meditation with my stress reduction group at my job, I almost always play music. Music and sound really helps people to get out of their own way a lot faster. Just sitting and doing nothing is so hard for us, especially this day and age where it's like smartphones and, a million things to do, just everything inundating us. And anything, in my opinion, especially anything that's not chemical, that's not harmful to us, that can help us to get to that place a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, is a good thing.
I was surprised how strongly my whole body felt the vibrations. I thought I would kind of just hear them, but I really felt them throughout my whole body. It was much more relaxing than I thought it would be.
Billions of brain cells communicate with each other, creating electrical activity. Just as we speak to each other, cells interact on different frequencies. What sound can do at these frequencies is a subject of the study called cymatics. It examines visible sound, such as the vibration of this plate of millet set on top of a speaker. Cymatics inspired a mechanical engineer, Kevin Cossie, to launch a 3D meditation music production company. In visual arts, 3D movies create an illusion of depth perception by recording motion picture from two perspectives. Special eyeglasses allow the moviegoer to see the film in 3 dimensions. The principle is similar with sound.
3D music is a very new term. It just represents the concept of going into a relaxed state and seeing 3D as opposed to ordinary dreams. What we produce is a brain state. We produce sounds that bring you into a hypnagogic state. That's the kind of dreaming state.
Cassie's company is called Sacred Acoustics. It sells audio exercises to entrain your brain to achieve a deep level of meditation using binaural beats. These are sounds you cannot hear with your ears. A person in headphones is exposed to sounds of different frequencies in each ear. It allows us to perceive low-frequency sound that can help relaxation.
Okay, let's get you lying down.
Cassie explains that to produce a 3D meditation music track, they first choose a desired target frequency. It could be the recorded brainwave state of a monk who has been practicing meditation all of his life. The monk's relaxed and undistracted brainwave state would correspond to very low frequencies. We would normally experience the same state in deep sleep. Sacred Acoustics creates an exercise designed to get you into the same meditative state.
It's like you go backwards. When you're a kid, you hear and taste and feel things so completely. Same thing with using this, aiding my meditation. Expands exponentially what I can do with meditation versus what I thought I could do before with it.
Catherine Herman, Cassie's fiancée, helps him test the 3D meditation music.
We're able to take an EEG, an electroencephalogram recording, by putting probes on someone's forehead or many probes on their brain, and we're able to access what their brain state is as far as brain frequencies.
Our brain operates in 5 states: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Each of them corresponds to a range of frequencies. The highest, gamma, above 30 or 40 hertz, is associated with problem solving and mental activity. The lowest, delta, from 0 to 4 hertz, naturally appears in deep sleep. Cassie says the hypnagogic state, when you access the subconscious, is somewhere around 4 hertz.
Our ears are not capable of hearing 4 hertz. That's for the whales. Our ears are good for 18 to 20 hertz. What we do is we deliver 100 hertz, which is a tone like and 104 hertz, let's say, is a tone a little higher. And our brain, in hearing the 100 hertz in the left ear and 104 hertz in the right ear, is going to perceive the difference between the two, which is this 4 hertz wah, 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 wah sound. And pretty soon, that's going to be the loudest thought in our head, is just this sound. And that's what frequency following. Our brain follows the frequency. That's what entrainment is.
Herman says 3D meditation music really helps her relax.
If I were meditating without 3D meditation music, it would probably take me an hour and a half to go to these places of calm or expansion. With 3D meditation music, it probably takes about 15 minutes.
A lot of times we're here in New York City, and the traffic and the honking and the high energy, and you lie down, you put the headphones on, and you're listening, and you're like, I'm never gonna get there, I'm never gonna relax. And then you're hearing the tones to bring you out, and you're like, what time is it? What, an hour has gone by? And you feel like you've rested for 4 hours. So it surprises you most of the time that it can take you down really fast.
For 219 West, I'm Natalia Osipova.
Imagine being away from your country, your family left behind, with little prospect of going back anytime soon. Juliet De Keyser has the story of one such person a long way from home.
For almost 4 months, Yehia Genam has been living in New York, more than 5,000 miles away from his country, Egypt, not by choice.
For me, it's a nightmare. And the worst thing about this nightmare is that I'm suffering from it while I'm awake. So it's not just a nightmare that will end just by waking up. I live it. I can't wake up.
Ghanem is facing 2 years in prison with hard labor. He was charged with accepting foreign funds illegally to run a journalism training program, a charge he denies. His trial lasted 2 years. Every day in court, he was inside a cage.
The average went from 5 hours to sometimes 7 hours. In a very tight cage, very dirty cage. You're not allowed to sit. You're not allowed to go to the restroom whenever you want. It's so humiliating, so inhuman.
Ghanem says just being in the cage prejudiced the trial from the beginning.
It goes totally against the principles of justice, because the universal rule is that the defendant is innocent until proven otherwise.
Ghanem was found guilty and he decided to flee. He received an academic year at the City University of New York in partnership with the Committee to Protect Journalists.
It's almost unbelievable. Here's this guy who is a veteran journalist, who has worked for Egypt's biggest outlets, who has reported from all sorts of conflicts around the world, who has reported on all sorts of domestic issues, and he's being targeted for doing his work. But in this case, it was his children, his very young children, who were being bullied and harassed in school because of what Yahya was doing as a journalist.
Indeed, Ghanem wrote for Al Aram, the most prominent newspaper in the Middle East. He was a war correspondent for 18 years, and he thinks he could have been targeted because he was well known.
One of the main objectives of this fabricated case was to give a sensational material to the media to be used in favor of certain powers. They pushed the media to the extent of even trying and sentencing us before the sentence came out.
During the trial, the journalists who once were his colleagues turned against him.
During the coverage, it was very selective, very biased, in terms of even overlooking the basic rules of journalism, to be balanced at least. If you want to be attacky, okay, at least the least you can do is to be balanced.
Now in New York, he shares his experience in classrooms and conferences, moments when he can escape from his worries, almost.
I was in Bosnia, in Afghanistan, in Congo, in Sierra Leone, Angola. The most dangerous were in those places, but the most threatening, the most compromising emotionally, unfortunately I have to say, was in my home country. I was very much, and I'm still very much worried about my family. So, and that's what hurt most, actually.
Here in the studio, Yahya Ghanem, thank you for sharing your story with us today. Tell us more, what's next for you?
So far, I haven't been able to plan out what's going to be next after CUNY. So, is it going to be going back home to stand the appeal? I guess I'm going to go back if I have guarantees that I'm not going to be thrown into jail while proceeding with the appeal. If not, then I guess I'm gonna be staying here until the whole political atmosphere change back home.
So let's talk about the political situation right now in Egypt. The last 2 years, the long-time regime was overthrown. The Islamist party took power. Now that's gone. Where is this going?
Since the coup took place almost 4 months ago, things have been going down drastically and deteriorating in Egypt. I guess the economy has taken a free fall and is so unfortunate. A lot of investments have been out of the country, have taken out of the country. Politically, socially, everything is going down very rapidly. So I believe, and this is my own estimation, and I've been right about previous estimations, I guess that the coup d'etat is bound to go down.
So do you feel more optimistic or pessimistic about your country?
I mean, we have. It's my country. I have to be optimistic. I cannot afford to be pessimistic when it comes to home. So, but apart from the wishful thinking, realistically, I believe that that we've already hit the bottom, and as worse as it is to reach the bottom, it's good. You know, the other aspect is good because there's no way below the bottom. Once you hit the bottom, you start going up.
This is a difficult time for Egypt right now, but it seems to be also a difficult time for the Middle East. How do you feel about the whole region?
The whole region is going through a very critical juncture. It's going through a changing phase and a changing era. And I believe that the crux of any democratization, if we are sincere about democratizing the countries in the area, the crux of democratization is Egypt. This is the heart. It was always and has always been the heart of the Arab world and Middle East, and it will always remain like that for many reasons, geographically, strategically, population-wise, you know, culturally. So it will always remain a crux of this area. If we need to have a successful democratization process in the Middle East, then we should start with Egypt. The thing that have been done during the last 2 years of aborting deliberately that fetal democratic process that we started in Egypt should never have happened. No concerned parties should have let that happen, not to mention to help in happening it. I think we have to revisit the very thought of democratization and our sincerity about it, and try to put Egypt on the right track again, and by doing so, putting the whole area on the right track of democratization. That is the only way to keep away the extremism and the crazy thoughts about fundamentalist Islam or whatever you're afraid of in the West. Democracy is the answer and the solution of all our fears. We should be heading in that direction.
Is there any other thing you would like to share with us today?
Egypt is imploding, but nobody can afford to leave Egypt to explode, because once it explodes, it will hit everybody in the face, not only the people, the Egyptians, but regionally and even outside the region. So I would hope that all the parties concerned of Egypt and the Middle East in general to extend help, to extend a hand to the Egyptians and Egypt, regardless of the coup d'etat and the mutineers. Egypt is worthy of a help. Nobody can afford to lose Egypt, especially at this critical juncture that we're going through in the Middle East.
Yahya Ghanem, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much.
Jonathan?
Last month, we introduced you to Michael LaForgia, the double amputee who was training to run the New York City Marathon. Michael was all set to run last year, but Hurricane Sandy shut down the race. This year, he joined about 48,000 runners on a beautiful fall day. His friends and family came out and formed Magic Mike's Silver Linings crew. They supported him at the 21st mile marker and at the finish line. 2 years ago, he struggled to finish the race because he wasn't used to his prosthetics. But this year, he said he finished strong. His time, 5 hours and 41 minutes. That's our program. I'm Jonathan Maffei.
And I'm Divya Verma. We'll be back next month with more stories from the 5 boroughs and beyond.